Some say love, it is a river, and that it drowns the tender reed. And some say love, it's like a razor, and that it leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love.
What? Where am I?
I see you, Ashley. You step out from behind the microphone, and then you quickly give everybody your Twitter, your Google+, your MySpace page, and where they can find you on YouTube. You're running from the men. You're all alone, Ashley. I can see you.
I'm not alone. I've got a co-host.
Ashley, listen, my son. I can see
Your
you.
son?
I can see you alone. And that's where you're going to end up. And that's where you're going to die, by telling everybody your social media is at the end of this podcast.
Well, that doesn't seem like a bad way to go, but it's not what I was expecting.
It seems like the very true detective way to go. That's where I see you, Ashley. All alone.
Oh.
When the night has been too lonely and the road has been too long.
Hello and welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And I'm Jason Riddle upon a Riddle Inman. Welcome to Your Mind University, the podcast where we tell you about one character of pop culture and give you their entire history piece, by little piece. But today is a very special episode because today we are not going to be talking about one specific character. We're going to be talking about one specific TV show, Ashley. And
Ooh.
Ashley, what is that TV show?
Well, I would hazard to say that TV show is True Detective Season 2, a reprise of our True Detective Season 1 episode.
Yes, so we are going to be talking all about True Detective Season 2. This is, we did this last year for Season 1. We're going to take you through beat by beat the season, kind of give you what we thought was the best scene, the worst scene, the best character, the worst character. So, obviously, there are major spoilers going forward. If you have not seen True Detective Season 2, I would suggest not listening to this podcast unless you want to listen to us to decide whether you want to listen to True Detective Season 2.
Well, then that's cool that you rate our opinion that highly.
Hey, that's cool. It's all right. Now, the reason why this podcast is a little bit down a couple weeks after is because we like to believe in the Vince Gilligan rule of spoilers. Ashley, what is the Vince Gilligan rule of spoilers? Vince Gilligan, of course, the creator of Breaking Bad, if you don't know who he is.
Yes. The Vince Gilligan rule of spoilers is that with television, you have to allow 2 weeks before you talk about it. You talk about the big plot details, any significant reveals, any character deaths.
In case some people on TiVo want to catch up or whatever, we have allowed multiple weeks.
Many weeks.
So we are way outside the Vince Gilligan, so we're just going to
So this is your fault,
the
listener.
crap out of it, okay? So, of course, as I do every time I'm ready to spoil everything, I'm going to tell you exactly what happens in the end.
Cool.
And so if you don't want to know any spoilers, you have to leave in 3, 2, 1. Ray Velcro and Frank Simeon die. There you go. That's the ending of True Detective Season 2.
True.
Yep, they flat out die.
Brutally.
Yep, pretty badly. Okay, so True Detective Season 2. Now, let's get to a quick short synopsis of what this season is about. Now, this season's story takes place in California and follows the interweaving stories of officers from 3 cooperating police departments. When California Highway Patrol officer and war veteran Paul Woodrow, who is played by Taylor Kitsch, discovers the body of a corrupt city manager named Ben Casper on the side of a highway, Vinci Police Detective Raymond Ray Velcoro, played by Colin Farrell, and Ventura County Sheriff's Officer Antigone Annie Bezzarides, played by Rachel McAdams, are called in to assist in the following investigation. At the same time, career criminal Francis Frank Simeon, played by Vince Vaughn, attempts to legitimize his business with his wife Jordan by investing in a rail project overseen by Ben Casper, but loses all of his money when Ben Casper is killed, prompting him to start his own investigation along with the cops. Now, if that sounds pretty complicated,
It kind of is.
It very, very is.
Can I just tell you that I didn't know that she was called Jordan until you just went through that synopsis? I literally had no idea what his wife's name was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I always knew he was Jordan. It was, the funny thing about it is that I kept forgetting that Rachel McAdams' character was called Antigone. I kept because I always thought of her as Bezarides because that's what everybody calls her. They just call her Bezarides.
Oh, I just thought the idea of her being, well, we'll get to it, but her being called Antigone was so interesting.
Yes, and I have some Easter eggs about that stuff. I also have some True Detective Season 2 Easter eggs, which will come at the end. And at the very end, we're also going to tell our thoughts about what we think Season 3 should be.
Because we were so accurate last time.
Yeah, oh God. Okay. Now, general, non-specific thoughts about the series. Should people watch True Detective Season 2? What would you think?
Absolutely, people should watch True Detective Season 2. It is very different from Season 1. It is different tonally. It's more ambitious. I would say in some aspects, it is less successful than Season 1. But I think looking at Season 1, you have to appreciate that that was lightning in a bottle. And you cannot recapture that in the same way that, to pull up a superhero analysis, The Dark Knight is lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
And the other two movies in that trilogy, for a lot of people, don't live up in the same way.
I like Batman Begins better.
I'm just as a speaking to broad generalizations, broad opinions, and I would say that's the same thing about the second season. And I think you have to take it as a divergent from the first season because it's not related at all. And I think that you have to understand that just because it might not be what you want doesn't mean it's bad. It's still better than probably 80% or more of the nonsense that's on television.
And I absolutely agree with you. I think that there are a lot of problems this season, and a lot of people were calling it a fail, like the internet does. Like it's an instant win or it's an instant fail. And I agree with you that 80% of television out there doesn't match what this show even did in Season 2. Yes, do I think it was a step down? Very much so, yes. But again, it is a true case of apples and oranges because Season 2 has nothing to do with Season 1.
Except there's some people who are doing some detecting.
Yes, there are detectives in it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's based in America. That's it.
Yeah.
They speak English. Maybe not so much in Season 1, but that's it.
Yeah, there's some white guys in it.
Yeah. So I will say that I think the major problem with the season is that it has a very slow start.
It does.
And we'll get to that. But overall, I think anybody calling this season a fail is just ridiculous.
I think that is, and I don't mean this to insult anyone, I think that's a childish opinion and a childish interpretation.
Call them children.
You are children and not the fun kind with sticky hands.
The sticky hand kinds are fun?
No, but like all actual little kids have sticky hands.
I want to know where the hell their hands have been.
They're in food, in their face, on the carpet. Kids have sticky hands. It's a scientific fact.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, so just like True Detective Season 1, Ashley,
Jason,
who was the best character in Season 2? What was their name and who were they played by?
Okay, the best character in Season 2 for me is different than my favorite character from Season 2, so I'm going to tell you both.
Oh, okay.
I think the best character from Season 2, the one who undergoes the most interesting arc, the one who changes the most, the one who is the best acted, I think is Ray Valcoro, played by Colin Farrell.
Okay.
Not an actor that I like. An actor that much like Matthew McConaughey, an actor that I came to like over watching him in this series. I think that he is, objectively speaking, the best character in this show.
Okay, then who's your favorite?
My favorite character was actually Frank Simeon, and I hate Vince Vaughn as an actor. I hate Vince Vaughn movies. I don't think he's interesting. But the more I think about this series, I enjoyed seeing what he was doing and what he was struggling with and what he was doing as an actor the most.
I'm just going to drop something. That was the hypocrite book that I just dropped because I remember Ashley when all the news of True Detective Season 2 was coming out, and I don't think you ever mentioned this on this podcast.
I did not.
Because it came out.
I think I mentioned it all over Twitter, though.
But all over Twitter, Ashley, you were so against Vince Vaughn.
I know, but I would have
watched
watched an entire series just about him.
Yes, and
I think him trying to be noble is like so interesting.
And we had several discussions about this, and I remember saying to you that I was like, I think Vince Vaughn is going to surprise people because I think he hasn't had the dramatic opportunity that Woody Harrelson had back in the 90s.
Yeah, with like Natural Born Killers.
Yes, yes. I think this is Vince Vaughn's Natural Born Killer. This is his like, oh shit, he can actually act, which I never doubted, but I just want to point that out, that you were so against him being in the show. So he's your favorite character.
He's my favorite character of True Detective Season 2.
Interesting.
Yeah, because like I said, I really enjoyed Colin Farrell, but he was the one who I was like, if I wanted to know more about a character, it would have been about Frank Simeon. I also think it's really interesting that his name is Simeon. Simeon is an ape.
Yep.
And he's this kind of big, brutish, tough guy character who's trying to learn to be human, if you want to take sort of that analogy. I thought that was just an interesting fact.
Okay.
So who do you think is the best character in True Detective Season 2?
I think the best character, without a doubt, no contest, is a character who likes to ride motorcycles. No, not at all. I actually agree with you. It's Ray Volcaro, played by Colin Farrell. I think he is the best character. He was my favorite character. Maybe because he had a big Western mustache. Maybe because he liked to wear
It was a poor choice.
He liked to wear the bolo tie.
His accent work was wonderful, was flawless.
You know, he had a great Texas accent. I do agree that I think probably the best actor on the show was Vince Vaughn. Who would ever thought we'd say that?
I know. I can't believe we're just like, yeah, totally. Vince Vaughn fucking nailed it.
Wow. But I do think that Velcoro had a little bit more of a character arc than Frank. Frank kind of seemed like he was the same, and he was kind of like, I'm going to go after the bad guys, which was fascinating.
Ray was also our only touch kind of back into that pseudo-mysticism that we had a lot of in Season 1, which I think is what people found lacking about Season 2.
Yes, yeah. He's definitely the Matthew McConaughey character.
Yeah.
But you get to see him go from absolutely washed out to, I would say by the end, a good cop.
Yeah, he's a complete asshole. Like, you like watching him. He's interesting in the beginning, but you don't like him as a person. And you really come to empathize with him over the course of the series.
Yeah, you do. And it's interesting because his downfall, his demise happens because of his son. Like, because he can't let go of his son, that's the reason why he dies.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And that's the one humanizing factor about that character, because very early on in the season, he's just this complete asshole drunk, and you're just like, what the hell are you doing? But like through it all, him talking to his son.
Yeah.
And I thought the interesting idea of the voice recorders, that he would do the voice recorders with his son, but I get the feeling that his son probably never listens to any of them.
Well, the last one didn't even get through.
Yeah, he was trying to send, he was recording on his phone, and he was out in the middle of the woods, and he tried to send it to his phone, and they show that shot of the phone, and it says, and has failed to send, which is very tragic, and also very noirish.
This show, this season is a lot about fathers and their sons, and fathers and daughters.
This season also is a lot about, when you can't have a baby. Help me out. Impotence. That's a lot of this season is impotence.
Yeah.
In many cases, especially when you go literally with Taylor Kitsch.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting, we talked about again, like, and we'll get to when we analyze this, like, last season was all about winning. This season was all about losing.
All about losing. Which, again, is kind of a tough thing to get behind. So I understand why that would have turned people off. But I think if the first season was all about winning, I understand why, if you're Nick Pizzolatto, Nick Pizza, as we like to call him, friend of the show, Nick Pizza.
Nick Pizza.
I understand why that's a different thing that you would want to explore as you're developing a new show, a new season, on and on and on.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so Ashley, we told the best character. Who? Now, and maybe what? Maybe you thought it was a car.
Maybe.
Or the dog. Or the ginger, because the ginger is a what? The ginger kid.
The ginger kid was annoying.
Who was the worst character on the show?
Paul Woodrue, tied with Jordan Simeon, are probably the two worst characters.
Now, explain why Paul Woodrue, played by Taylor Kitsch, the California police officer, he was also my worst character.
All right. Problem number one is casting Taylor Kitsch and expecting him to act. Like, there's...
You didn't think that talking like this was acting?
No, and I have a problem, as I've said many times, with Mary Sue characters, and we're told a lot like, Woodrue was the best of us, Woodrue was so brave, Woodrue sacrificed, but he just kind of seems like this closed-off asshole. Nick Pizzolatto, I'm going to criticize you here, bro. I really like Nick Pizzolatto. Nick Pizza. I really respect him. I like a lot of what he does.
Got it.
But Paul Woodrue exemplifies all the stereotypes that he doesn't know how to write. I think in 2015, it's not that...
Well, let's name them. Soldier.
Well, I'm going to go.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
All right. So I think in 2015, it's not interesting to tell a story about someone whose big secret is that they're gay. I think there were more interesting ways to tell it than we saw executed here. I thought it was done very poorly and very poor taste. I think that in 2015, it's very insulting to write PTSD the way that it was shown here.
Well, he's not the only one that's guilty of that.
No, but I'm criticizing this show now.
Even Stephen Moffat is guilty of that.
Yeah, Sherlock.
Sherlock and Doctor Who.
Yeah, we're not talking about that right now.
Got it.
Yeah. And I just think that those are two things that we've come to a place in our society that we understand much better than we did in 1945. And maybe we should treat characters and the subject matter with some respect, especially if you want to use those as points of drama. And I'm not saying that a story about someone who's a closeted homosexual is not interesting. It is. It just wasn't done well here, and it wasn't executed by an actor who could have taken the script and made it better.
Yeah.
And the same thing. With the PTSD, so I'm obsessive, so I have to put myself in dangerous situations. No. Just fucking no.
I will say that even with those two storylines that I think an actor like Colin Farrell or even an actor like Rachel McAdams could have sunk their teeth into, because Taylor Kitsch, I feel, is not at either one of their levels. He just play it quiet, just monotone, because you don't understand me.
Right, it's the Kit Harington, Jon Snow thing. It's like, oh, I'm troubled, so I'm just gonna mumble.
If I mumble, that means I have problems. Yes.
Yeah, and
I was in John Carter once.
He certainly stood on screen and called himself John Carter.
Yeah.
So there was, for me, in the writing and in the performance, there was just nothing to empathize with.
Nope.
And everyone was telling me, what a great character you are. And then I was like, but you're not. You're the least interesting person on. And he got a lot of screen time.
And he got a highway named after him. So it all worked out.
Right.
And he died.
And then Vince Vaughn's girlfriend, I was just really over it.
I didn't even care. I didn't even really consider her a character.
Every time she showed up, I just rolled my eyes.
All right. What was...
You're not going to tell me? Oh, you said you also liked
it's Paul.
It's
Paul.
Okay.
I enough said. When you watch the show, everyone, if you haven't seen it, you'll understand why he's the worst character.
You'll understand in his first scene.
Yeah, in literally his first or not second scene, you'll be like, oh God, I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a character I almost think that they could have cut completely out of the show, and we wouldn't miss anything.
I think actually it would have strengthened the show.
Because that was a definite problem this season. Too many characters.
Too many characters. Spread too thin.
Yep. What? So all these who, what, how, what, now. When can you talk? I'm going to test Taylor Kitsch. What was the best scene in True Detective season 2?
The best scene is when Ray Falcoro goes to Frank Simeon's house. Frank Simeon has to move into a new house because he's lost all his money.
What episode is that from?
5.
Nope.
6,
You didn't do your research.
7,
Episode 6.
6. Episode 6. It's from episode 6. He goes to his house and
What's the name of that episode?
I don't know.
I'm marking your demerits.
Basically, oh man, we had demerits in school. He goes to Frank's house to call him on his shit. And they have a scene where they sit across the kitchen table from each other and they both have a gun on each other from under the table. And it's lit very yellow. And they just...
The whole series is lit very yellow, by the way.
But this scene is really yellow. And
Season 1 was blue. This is yellow.
They just talk and they let their expectations be known and they let their anger be known. And then Vince Vaughn tells Colin Farrell to fuck off and he leaves. I think all of the Frank and Ray scenes are the strongest ones because, like we said before, they're the strongest characters, the strongest performances, the most interesting to watch. But there's so much tension and there's so much at stake beyond just they could shoot each other in that scene. It's their entire lives are on the line. And the framing device of we're just sitting here having a polite conversation at the kitchen table, I think made for a really compelling drama. And if we had had more of that throughout the season, I think it would have held up better in sort of the public eye. So, yes, the kitchen table gun talkie scene.
It was a Western.
Yes, it was a standoff.
Because that scene is in so many Westerns where two men sit at a table and hold the guns at each other underneath the table.
Or they each have them just right in front of themselves on
that,
the table.
That scene has been seen in so many Westerns, and that's the reason why I think it resonates so much. This might be a really short episode because that was my favorite scene as well.
We don't normally agree this much.
The episode is called Church in Ruins. And now, of course, this is all about... Ray, several years ago, he had been told by Frank, who had raped his wife. That was a big plot point for Frank.
Yes.
And so he went and killed this person. He later found out that was not the right name. It was a completely different person. So Frank basically Ray went to Frank and basically was going to shoot him because he lied to him.
Yeah, because he encouraged him to commit this mortal sin. He killed another human being.
Now, the reason why I picked this as my favorite scene, besides the Western overtones, is I think it has 2 lines in it that exemplify season 2 of True Detective, the theme of season 2.
Okay.
Ravel Curl says, "You fucked me. I would have been different." And I keep getting their names right. Frank Velcoro responds, "Of all the lies people tell themselves, I bet that's the most common.
I would have been different.
I would have been different."
That's true, and that really is because Frank Simeon, Vince Vaughn's character, spends a lot of time telling his wife Jordan these stories about his childhood.
Yeah, you learn that he had a horrible childhood.
About how he was abused by his dad and how he
locked
suffered.
in the basement.
And how he always wanted to be more than just a thug, and that's what he's trying to do, but he's forced to keep being a thug. Ray Valcoro is trying to be the good father, the good husband, but he just doesn't have it in him. And Tigani Bezarides is trying to come out from under the shadow of her father, who's this pseudo-mystic.
I also think she's trying to prove herself. She feels... Another problem with her character is I feel that she feels that she has to constantly show her worth.
She has to compensate.
She has to compensate. When I feel she doesn't.
Yeah.
Because she's clearly the best cop in the room just by standing there.
Yeah.
But she keeps doing these like, oh, look at me, I can knife fight, so that means I'm better. And Frank is like, I'm more than a criminal. I'm going to get out of the criminal world. Ray is that. I think Ray's big thing is that I'm going to be a better father than my father.
Yes.
You know, like I'm going to be the father that my father never was, and it bleeds on everything like that. And I think Taylor Kitsch's character is all about I'm more than being gay.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. And I also feel he's like, I'm more than a soldier. But in the end, all of these people are exactly who they think they are.
Or who they don't want to be.
Who they don't want to be is exactly who they are.
Yeah, Annie kind of gets over it because she, another thing that I didn't like about the series is she winds up with a baby. But so they give her someone to protect. They give her a new family because she rejects her own family.
Yeah,
she
totally
rejects her
rejects her
sister and her father. And I think it was so interesting that they called her Antigone. Antigone, for anyone who doesn't know, who needs a refresher, is Oedipus's daughter. She's the daughter of a blind criminal and a blind mystic, and they kind of touch on that, but they don't do enough with. Like, I think there's a lot of fertile ground there that wasn't mined.
But basically that again is why I think the entire season is summed up in that scene, because I feel that Ray Velcro is a bad cop.
He is,
and nothing will ever change that. And Frank is a criminal, and nothing will change that. And they both pay. Because of those things.
Because of those choices that they made. Because of who they are.
Yes. Because of the last minute, Ray, who was trying to be a better cop, gets killed by his bad cop buddies. Because of the last minute, he decides to make the right choice.
Yeah.
And Frank gets killed because he goes back to his criminal ways.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly why he gets killed. So, like, it's interesting. Also, here's the thing. I just realized this right now. Ray, a bad cop, killed by bad cops.
Yeah.
Frank, a criminal, killed by criminals.
And I also think it's interesting they both die.
Paul, a soldier, killed by soldiers.
Interesting. They both die, not Paul, but Frank and Ray also both die out in nature. Like they're two characters that they're city people. You know, they're from human constructs. They're interested in money. They're interested in power, and they literally die in the
middle of nowhere. Ray dies in the middle of a forest, and Frank dies
in the middle of a desert.
Which is interesting. And again, if you don't know, there's a very powerful scene. I think another one of the best scenes in the whole thing is there's when Ray Velcuro gets shot in episode 3. You think it's a real bullet. But it's actually like a riot bullet, like a little sandbag. And he when he's unconscious, he hears this Conway Twitty song, and he sees his father in his dream, and his father tells him exactly the scene of his death.
Yeah, in episode 3,
which is what we were trying to parody.
Yeah. He lays it all out, and it's so interesting.
Yeah, and
because originally you're just like, oh, this is really weird, and then
the funny thing about it is I remember that scene. Like I just listened to the song because I just figured the father was speaking gibberish.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because that's what he says a lot. He says, like, you're so small. You look so small.
Yep.
And I think they try to translate that in the actual, when they shoot the scene by using a lot of crane shots.
Yes, because the final shot you see of Ray Velcuro is the dolly, is the crane shot going up.
As he's leaning against a redwood, yeah.
Yeah, so he becomes small against and I think also against the trees and stuff like that. Here's an interesting thing. Just these points we realize. Anybody that called True Detective Season 2 like a pile of crap.
Or weak, yeah.
Like that just actually made me like the series even better. The whole that like a soldier killed by a soldier, a bad cop killed by a bad cop, and a criminal killed by a criminal. Like that's interesting, and we just realized that now.
Yeah.
That's not accidental.
But you don't have moments in this season. They try to get there, but you don't have moments like Rust's "The World's a Donut" speech.
Yes.
You know, like there's little things that were in season 1 that are not
yeah,
here. And again, the pacing.
Excuse me, Marty.
No, not again.
Marty? You call for me, Marty?
Fuck.
You know, time is like a donut. You know, I think also that why season 2 is not as good as season 1 is because there's no out of continuity time jumps. They were only on one side of the donut.
Jason's acting this out.
That's something that allows you, like, we'll get to this, but another big problem with this season is the obtuseness.
It's too obtuse.
It's very obtuse.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
Okay.
What was the worst scene in True Detective Season 2?
The worst scene is in episode 1 of True Detective Season 2. I can't put the pin exactly into why I think it's bad. I just remember seeing it and hearing it and like thinking it was foul. And part of it is I don't like Taylor Kitsch.
Okay.
I'm going to freely admit that.
Okay, I think I kind of think I know what scene you're going to pick.
The fucking first scene with him is he's in bed with his girlfriend, who he'll later not, or he comes home to his girlfriend. They're in the bedroom.
The first scene is on the bike.
Oh, right. So the second scene, they're in the bedroom.
Yep, got it.
And she's like, "Come and put your cock in my mouth." And he's like, "I have to take a shower." And I just remember, like, even saying it now.
Children listen to this show.
Not this one.
Children.
Not True Detective.
Children.
But like even saying it now, like it.
I live on the donut, and you just leap over the donut.
I was just like, what a despicable way to introduce this female character who's obviously going to be important, and she does wind up being very important. They do some cliche things with her, but I think her name is Emily.
I don't know. Here's the thing: she's not important. Who cares about her name?
No, but
she
like
really isn't.
But she does some important things in terms of his character arc, and the way like they introduce her is like, "Put your dick in my mouth." Like, I just hated that scene. Was so much, and I don't care what it's supposed to tell you about the character. I just thought there was a better way to execute that, and it was fucking vile.
Speaking of dicks and mouths, my worst scene was when Paul was with his boyfriend in episode 3.
Yeah, his boyfriend does he shoot the boyfriend or does the boyfriend shoot him? Oh no, the boyfriend gets shot in front of him.
No, the boyfriend gets shot in front of him. But anyways, so there's a scene where he gets called up by one of the old war buddies, and they go palling around, and he punches him. It's a scene that they showed in all the trailers where Taylor Kitsch punches the guy.
I think it's supposed to be like that scene in Brokeback Mountain where where he like breaks Jack's nose.
Where Heath Ledger runs away.
Yeah, and like that's a really arresting scene because you believe that both those guys actually like each other.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, I get it. You're driven to violence, whatever.
But in this, like, and immediately they cut and you find out that Paul, like, stayed the night and slept over. And then
the boyfriend's not very good either.
No, and before then, before this moment, we kind of knew that we kind of suspected, but we hadn't had it confirmed.
Yeah.
And that confirmed it. And again, it went into like what you were speaking with the girl. Like it became off very cliche
and tasteless, and kind of by association.
And also, it was like, who cares that he's gay?
Right.
Like he's a soldier, he's a cop. Who cares?
It's not that it's not interesting that he's gay. Like there are gay people, hooray! But it doesn't do anything as far as changing his character.
Exactly, and there's nothing in his background to make you feel why he would be so against this. Like
he's from California.
Yeah, and his mother is like a go-go dancer, prostitute / stripper. They're never quite clear about what she does.
Yeah.
Like she was a stripper and she gave up her career, she said at one point, but then you also get the impression that like she's also a prostitute.
Because she's like, he ruined my body.
Yeah, exactly. If he had come from a heavily religious background, then I would make sense.
Right.
But there's no reason for him to hate his homosexuality besides him just being a tough guy.
Right. Kind of cliche.
Yeah, and again, very cliche. So yeah, dicks and mouths. Okay.
Yeah, lots of dicks on things we didn't like.
What? was the best episode? There were 8 episodes. What was the best episode of season 2?
Well,
what is the episode that people should look forward to?
The final episode is really strong. The final episode, I think, pays off a lot of what is set up. In both exposition and style-wise and just in the story. Like, I think the finale is a very strong episode. Just don't watch the last scene where they go to, like, Mexico or Venezuela. Don't watch that scene. Because you're kind of just like, oh, this trope? Okay. I think episode 4 is probably the one to
What's the name of that episode?
Start with. I don't know.
Oh, you're killing me here.
Killing me, Smalls. I suspect it's the one that you picked for your best episode.
Incorrect.
Well, there you go. Episode 4
What happens in episode 4? So we know what it is.
The end of episode 4 is a very big firefight.
Oh, the Mexican standoff one.
Yeah, yep.
Right before the time jump.
Yep, in an LA street, in an LA bus with some gangsters who the cops have come down, and they literally just massacre all these people around.
And it's like 10 minutes. Yeah.
One, it's really well shot. It's not quite as arresting as the 10-minute dolly shot in season 1.
The 10-minute continuous shot.
Continuous shot in season 1. But it's shot very well.
Man, that would have been impressive if it was a dolly shot. Holy shit.
Right? I know what I'm talking about.
Holy crap. All that track? Holy Jesus.
You didn't see any of it. It was amazing.
Oh my God.
But I think it's very well choreographed. It's very well executed. And
It's very brutal.
It's brutal, but it's the first time that you actually believe that any of this is life or death. Not that it matters. Like, you get that it matters. But this is the first time it feels dangerous. And it feels like there are real stakes. And I think that if it had been that episode with a little bit more exposition, that's what the pilot should have been.
Got it.
So, episode 4.
Cool. My favorite episode is episode 6, Church in Ruins, the one we were talking about, because it has the best scene. Everyone gets something to do. It's weird because
is that the sex party scene?
It's the sex party episode where they do the assault, where she gets in to go in the sex party, and the show gets really weird.
It is weird,
and then Taylor
but
Kitsch,
that's a great sequence.
Yeah, and then Taylor Kitsch and Reva Curl like rescue her, and there's danger, and there's like, what is going to happen? And here's the funny thing about it too. It's also, I think, the episode where the most detecting actually happens, because they figure out how to get into the sex party, where to go to the sex party, the jewels, you know.
They save the girl.
Yeah, like, and again, everybody gets something to do, and that's why I think it's a very, very strong episode. I almost picked the last episode, but I just really feel that the kitchen table scene and the sex party are like, you know, that's like True Detective's hallmarks. Like,
yeah.
metaphysical conversations and weird shit.
Weird sex stuff with animal heads.
Yep, there you go. What was the worst episode of season 2?
Maybe episode 1?
Make a choice. Don't say maybes.
Well, okay, it's episode 1. But it's not because it's bad. It's because it's poorly paced.
Okay.
We get a really, really long introduction to all the characters, and they do a really, really poor job at tying them together without just being like, oh, they're all cops and here's a criminal. And we get a really poor introduction to this character, Ben Casper, who's supposed to be the reason that they're all tied together. It takes us 4 episodes to appreciate, oh, that's why he matters. Oh, that's why it's interesting that he was left here. Oh, that's why they gouged his eyes out. Oh, that's why we're all in danger now. And I think that I don't think that episode 1, it's not like a terrible episode, and it's not like really shitty things happened in it. I just think it needs a major rewrite and a reshoot. And I think it fails to do what a first episode is supposed to do, which is to excite you.
Hook you.
Yeah. It presents you with some interesting information, but it's not quite there. So I'm sorry. I feel really bad being like the first episode. But
don't feel bad, because I also feel the Western Book of the Dead title of episode 1 is the worst episode of the season, because every season on improves on it. And I agree with you. I don't think the problem is that it needs a major rewrite. I think the problem is that it just needs to be cut.
Oh, yeah? You just need some edits?
Start at episode 2.
Sure.
Cut everything in episode 1. We do not need it.
Yeah.
Everything in episode 1 that happens, we can learn in shorter scenes in episode 2.
It's frivolous, yeah.
We should start with the crime. That was the biggest mistake, because episode 1, and I think this is the reason why a lot of people dropped off, was just like, oh, the lives of these cops.
These 4 disparate people.
And the criminal guy. Is there going to be a crime, and why do we keep cutting to the shot of a body? Oh, that's the body that we finally get to learn in the last scene. Okay. Mm-hmm. Why do we care about this?
Whereas, again, in to harp on it, in season 1, we start with the body.
We start right with the body, right with the crime, right with detectives on the scene. Boom. Title of the show is Detective. Let's start with the detectives.
Yeah.
This is not called True Family Lives of Detectives. It's called True Detective. Get to the detecting. And that was also another big nitpick of the season. There was not a lot of detecting.
Yeah.
So.
Not until when there was.
Not till the end.
There was a lot of information dump.
So, let's really quickly just get a general oversight of season 2, general thoughts. Let's give it out of 5 stars. What would you give it? And then we'll go and talk. I have some Easter eggs, and we'll talk about what we think season 3 should be.
Okay, I would give it.
And I would want to hear your pitch for season 3 as well.
I would give it. Like 3.5 stars.
Okay.
You know, like a solid like B, B plus, because it's problematic.
Yep.
Certainly, there's a lot.
What would you give season 1?
I'd give season 1 5.
Nice. I give season 1 4.5. I think it has a niche of a that knocks it down. I think.
I mean, there were characters in it I don't like.
Pretty close to fucking perfect. I agree.
Yeah, like as close as you can get when it's made by people.
Yep.
You know, because it's never
and
gonna
not gods.
Yeah.
That hop around on the donut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more good than bad. You know, I think for the sake of this podcast, we've gone into some of our criticisms. Like, I don't feel negatively about it, you know, which I feel like might be belied by some of the things that we said earlier.
Yeah, we've been harping on it pretty bad.
Yeah.
But we did like it.
I did like it. I'd like to rewatch it at some point.
Totally.
I think it's very smart. I think it's too smart for its own good.
It is too smart for its own good. It's too smart. It's too obtuse. There were a lot of moments that even me watching it that I feel that I didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I watched every episode. And Nick Pizza pulled back on the making sure the audience knew what was going on. Like, because I feel that was a lot more clear in season 1. Like,
yes.
the reveals and you know.
Well, and I think the storytelling device of the time jump helped a lot.
It helped that, yes. Because
you could explain things.
Mm-hmm, and we were also the entire time trying to figure out what changed these characters. Mm-hmm. In this season, we didn't have that. In this season, I remember asking you a lot, why don't they tell us why Ben Casper is important? Because they never did that, and he's the murder victim.
Yeah, they do it in the finale, but by then it's like, well, we're already at the finale.
Yeah, and also in like episode 7, you learn that like, oh, he meant to screw over Frank.
Yes.
Got it. Yes. Okay, Frank was never going to get his money. Got it. Mm-hmm. You know, but I think we needed that sooner.
Yeah.
Or other crimes needed to happen, or whatever.
We needed more payoff earlier. Mm-hmm. It needed to be more evenly paced. It's very back heavy this season.
Yes, and a lot of it is all about the corruption. Where by the end we learn that it's all corrupt, but in the beginning it's like, I don't know, especially in the beginning, it didn't really feel like they were ever investigating anything.
Yeah.
Like they were just having interviews and nothing was being revealed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and they just kind of like stumbled around and that's about it.
But yeah, I'd still give it, like a 3.5.
I'd give it 3. And I totally agree with you. I would. I
mean, if you sat me down and said like, you can watch True Detective season 2 again right now, or you can watch like a season of Modern Family, that's not a contest for me. I'm going to watch True Detective.
Got it. I think, to me, the biggest strengths of this season were Frank and Ray's relationship, the gangster and the cop. And I think that if
not the weird girl who sang in every episode.
Nope. Oh, I love that. I loved her though. I love her because she did what I think is the true theme song of season 2, not that horrible theme song that they had. But I think the real relationship was between those two. That's what the season should have been. Taylor Kitsch's character should have been cut out, and the series should have been about the conflict between Ray and Rachel McAdams, and Rachel McAdams always wondering the entire season whether she can actually trust Ray, because Ray is like best friends with the gangster of the town. Yeah,
and I actually really liked their relationship, and that's what made me... I didn't like her character much in the beginning, and I really kind of warmed up to her as she was warming up to Ray. And then when they eventually... got together, I was like, oh, I'm good with this. Like, they need each other, and they understand each other, and that I think was really earned compared to some of the other stuff.
Now let's get into some True Detective Season 2 Easter eggs. Ooh. Now, the first episode of Season 2, as I said before, was called The Western Book of the Dead. Now, that name was inspired by a philosophical a philosophical essay by John Crichton, and another book by the same name written by Yogi Narayana. And Yogi Narayana was a mystic and alleged psychic.
Yogi like a yoga person.
Mm-hmm. McAdams' character, Annie's father, has a religious institute named after an ancient trading city that was part of the Roman Empire.
Ooh, cool.
Panticapaeum, I think is how you pronounce it. It was frequently attacked. The Encyclopedia Britannica says that the Huns devastated the seaport city in the year 375.
Wow.
And that same city now goes by the name of Kerch and is located in the Ukraine.
Cool.
Now, Antigone, Bezarides, and Athena are the two sisters.
Yep.
And of course, as you said, Antigone is a character that was created by Sophocles. And in the mythos, she was super devoted to her brother. It is also interesting that Athena was the Greek goddess of reason and intelligence, and then that was the character that was her sister.
Well, and her sister's not perfect. Like, she's kind of flighty, but when her sister has scenes with Annie, it's all about, like, she's very much trying to be the voice of reason in her life, and Annie rejects that.
Now, Annie had a big pastime. She loved to do what, Ashley?
Fight with knives and have sex with people she worked with.
Yes. And in her apartment, on her bookshelf, includes these books. A Book of Five Rings by 1600 samurai Miyamoto Musashi. Higuru, Book of the Samurai by Yamato Tsutomu. I'm butchering these names. And Master of the Blade, Secrets of the Deadly Art of Knife Fighting by Richard Ryan.
Cool.
So you could say her apartment had a theme.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn also, and this is a shout out to a good friend of the podcast, Steven Schleicher, creator and runner of Majorspoilers.com. In this season, Vince Vaughn's character, Frank, said that he's not going to wait for Ray Vaquero's Burnout to make like Rockford.
Yep.
And of course, he's referencing the old TV show starring James Garner as the private detective, Rockford, which I think is a funny allusion.
I thought that was a great line.
Yep. Now let's talk about what we think Season 3 should be. Now, we were completely wrong.
Yep.
I believe mine was like Adama and I said Adama and Kara Thérèse team it up.
Well, then we changed it to Katie Sackhoff and President Rosalind.
Yep. Oh, two girls. Yeah. So what do you want? Pitch me your Season 3. I want to hear who, because of course, keep the theme of the actors.
Sure.
Like who are your movie actors, and then let's location.
Okay, one of the things that I thought was both interesting and a mistake about this season was setting it in Los Angeles. I thought that was interesting because I live in Los Angeles, so I was like, oh, hey, I know where these places are. Vinci's based on Vernon, da-da-da-da-da. But I think for this kind of story and the style that Nick Pizza tells his stories in, I think the rural setting
is best.
It just highlights. It doesn't scream big city to me.
I have a feeling we'll go back to the rural setting for Season 3 because, again, I think he's going to hop again. Like Season 1, story of success. Season 2, story of losing. Rural city. I think the only reason we came to a city was because to be different.
Sure, and I get that. And shooting in Los Angeles is a lot cheaper and easier.
Of course.
I would love to see it set in Louisiana.
Again, go back to Louisiana.
Yeah.
Because that's where we were for Season 1.
And if you want to do the city thing, then I think
Baton Rouge.
I don't know anything about that. Okay, the only
or New Orleans.
New Orleans is like the only city I know in
Got
Louisiana. I'm sorry, Louisiana listeners. I'm just not good at geography.
Do we have any
I'm
Louisiana
not America.
listeners?
If you are from Louisiana,
# Louisiana listeners.
Make yourselves known, and then offer to put us up for Mardi Gras.
There you go. Sure.
I just think that there's a lot of really interesting. If you set it like in the swamps of Louisiana, maybe, because there's that interesting like Cajun culture and the voodoo where you could play more on the mysticism.
Does Kermit the Frog get to make a cameo?
Fuck yes. We open.
Yes.
No.
On Kermit the
theme.
Frog.
The theme is Rainbow Connection.
What?
Right. So that plays over those cool credits.
Okay.
I'd like to see it be two ladies.
Why are there so many murders in this swamp? Let me and my partner investigate.
And it's Kermit and Fozzie. And or Bert and Ernie.
Are for Solvin.
And Kermit's the reporter.
Oh my God. Bert and Ernie the cops?
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Okay, but here's a secret. Nick Pizza can't write women. The women he writes
can write knife women.
They're men. Annie Bezarides is a man, is a woman saying
with boobs.
Men's lines. Like there are lots of male writers who do this. That he does this.
Okay.
But I would love to see a series starring two women, with some men in the supporting role. But it's tough because you want a female who has, like Katie Sackhoff, who again we brought up for season 1. Katie Sackhoff seems tough. She doesn't seem like she's playing at being tough, which Rachel McAdams, and I liked her.
Did the entire season.
She didn't actually seem tough. She seemed like this is how
Katie
I
Sackhoff
think.
Could probably kick my ass.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain she could.
So, and I don't want to say like Ronda Rousey just because she's trendy right now, and I don't think that fighters or wrestlers should act because as an actor, I want that job because I can fucking act.
Sure. This is an angry podcast.
It is an angry podcast.
Wow.
Well, because everyone's like, "Oh, Stardust should be on Arrow," and I'm like, "No, fucking no." So now I just dated the recording of this podcast.
All right.
But yeah, I'd like to see two ladies, but again, it's tough. Like Katrina Law, she seems like a tough lady.
Who?
She plays Nissa Al Ghul on Arrow.
Okay, not a movie star though.
No, she doesn't have to be a movie star.
You got to keep the theme of the seasons. Yeah, the so far True Detective has taken movie stars for its leads.
Okay,
so it has to follow a movie star.
Who's a tough lady? Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon in True Detective.
And what's her name? She was on The Shield.
Gina Davis.
No. Fuck no. Not Gina Davis.
Glenn Close.
Glenn Close is the DA.
Oh, good Lord. I don't know if I want to watch this season.
You don't like Glenn Close?
No, I mean, just Glenn Close and Susan Sarandon and True Detective.
Why not? What do you have against older awesome ladies?
I mean, I don't have anything against older awesome ladies. I just don't feel that they...
Roxanna Dawson, like from when she played Belana Torres?
She's not a movie star.
Well, who's like a young lady who's tough?
I have no problem with those two. I just feel that so far, if you look at the True Detective model, there is an internal conflict with the main leads, and I don't see Susan Sarandon and Glenn Close bringing. They seem so similar to me. Like they play a lot of the same roles. You know,
there's like 20 years between them.
I know, but still, they seem like they like. I'm the Hollywood casting director. I'm just saying my personal preferences.
You're wrong.
I don't see them having a conflict.
Well, I'm trying to think of like a younger lady, like 20s or 30s, who's actually like Jennifer Lawrence is not tough.
Nope.
She's pretending to be tough. I don't think she's actually tough. And like Katie Sackhoff is just such an easy like fallback.
What about Evangeline Lilly?
Yeah, I don't think Evangeline Lilly's that tough. Evangeline Lilly's tough, but she doesn't seem strong to me.
Okay.
Whereas like I think Katie Sackhoff could pick up a tree.
Okay. Katie Sackhoff could pick up a tree. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think Evangeline Lilly could pick up a tree. I think she would ask someone to if she would stitch somebody up because she stitched her curtains once. I don't know. That's tough. Plus, Evangeline Lilly's making Marvel money now. I don't know. Let me think.
Okay.
Pitch me your season 3.
My season 3 of True Detective are two detectives in Texas investigating a series of murders that are connected to the Aztecian mysticism and
I'm sure that's how you say it.
Mictlantecuhtli. It's basically the Aztecan god of death.
Yes.
And soon they find out that it's about that a member of this cult was also a member of the fanatic of the Yellow King. This member of this cult also wore a bird mask in California.
Interesting.
It's all about the Aztecans. So basically, this whole season is about drugs and the building of a solid wall on the border of Mexico. And it's set in El Paso. And it's to connect all the previous seasons. And my two detectives, I want an old man and a young woman in the West. And Tommy Lee Jones is my lead detective.
Oof.
Who has been he's a month away from retirement, and this is his last case. And I'm going far out there, and his partner, I'm going to make a state investigator brought in because it's a state case, and I'm going to do the same thing that the previous 2 seasons did: a sort of comedic actor, put him in drama. And she has been seen in a lot of indie films, a lot of drama indie films lately. I'm going to cast Kirsten Stewart. No, wait. No, not Kristen Stewart. Kristen Wiig. My bad.
I was like, the Twilight
No.
girl?
Kristen Wiig has been in a lot of
Yes.
like really kind of dark, weird indie films lately. And I think that just like Vince Vaughn, this could prove. And also, I think her weird sensibilities against Tommy Lee Jones.
I think she's really talented.
And also because like I just think like you were thinking about going mythic, but I would not go back to Louisiana. We've seen Louisiana. I would not go back to California. I feel
Well, where else is mythic, though?
the West, Texas, one of the oldest parts of America. And that's why
Texas kind of scares me.
And that's why it would be there are a lot of parts of Texas that are scary, just like Louisiana. And I think making it about the border of Mexico lets you involve, because Mexico is also a very old. And I think,
you know who else you should cast in that? Who is traditionally not taken seriously, but might actually have the chops? Danny Trejo.
Sure, he could be the drug lord, or that they go for info. But I think really old and really young would be interesting.
Okay, I've picked who I would like to be my young lady.
Okay,
because she's really hot right now. Haley Atwell. Because
sure, is she British or is she American?
She's American in this.
Okay.
And she's the local one. Mm-hmm. And they bring Susan Sarandon.
The reason why I also I went back to having a man is specifically because of your point, because Nick Pizza has not proven that he can write women yet.
Yeah.
And I think Tommy Lee Jones could be. I mean, just think about No Country for Old Men. Mm-hmm. That's his audition for this role.
Yeah.
And I think this is. Make him the old U.S. Marshal who's ready to fucking give up. And Kristen Wiig is like, he's so set in his ways of doing it this way. And Kristen Wiig is like, no, we got like a DNA fucking scanner and we got this over here. And he's like, fuck no. You know, like, I know Mexico. Like, I've fought these Mexicans for a long time. And I think that wall should go up.
It's interesting because last year when season 1 ended, there were already rumors. I mean, they were wrong about what season 2 is going to be. Mm-hmm. And we have no rumors.
Well, season 3...
Except that season 3 is happening.
Season 3 is going to happen. The HBO president said that he really thinks the show is great. And he thinks that it's some of the best writing on television. So season 3 is going to happen. It's interesting.
I think we get 5 seasons. 5 or 7.
Really?
Out of True Detective. Yeah, I do.
I guess 4.
You think?
I also could see it ending after 3.
It depends.
If
3 does really well, though.
If 3 brings back the critical acclaim, I think we'll see. I think we'll see a 4th season. I don't think we'll see a 3rd season. If the reaction is again this,
yeah,
I think it. But here's a scary thought. Let me throw this out there. Very scary thought.
Okay.
What if Nick Pizza goes crazy, and we hear that season 3 is about Marty and Russ again? What if he gets scared?
That would be a mistake.
And does another story about Marty and Russ?
That would be a huge mistake. That would be
like after what we saw in season 1.
I don't need to see it. It's all resolved.
I think their story's over. But would you be like, oh no?
I would probably still watch it because it's a show that I watch,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
What if season 3 is Bezarides and baby?
No, I fucking hate that they gave her a baby. I hate that. He did it for his sons. Ugh. No. Unacceptable.
So 3 women in Louisiana.
3 women in Louisiana.
What are they investigating? What's the murder? What's the case?
I don't know.
Well, it's called True Detective. They got to have a crime.
Bodies are being dug up. I don't know. And there's alligators.
Is there a hurricane?
Sure. I don't know much about Louisiana. It's humid.
Have you not heard about Hurricane Katrina?
I'm not from this country.
Okay, and that's the perfect point to detect our ways the hell out of this episode. This is a very weird and interesting episode. Ashley,
kind of like the series.
Where can they find Geek History Lesson on the social media?
They can find it on Facebook.com/GeekHistoryLesson and GeekHistoryLesson.com.
Where they can still ask and request topics, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. Please go leave a rating or review on iTunes because it helps people find the podcast just like you. And click download. We've got a lot of new listeners lately. Thank you to all the new listeners. We hope you enjoyed this dick in your mouth episode. And Ashley, where can you find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Ashley V. Robinson.
You can find me on Twitter at Jawiin, Jawiin. And you can also support this podcast and get some Geek History Lesson Tea at patreon.com/Jawiin. That's Patreon, Jawiin. Ashley, before we sign off, any final thoughts to give the listeners about True Detective Season 2?
Just fast forward all the scenes that are only Taylor Kitsch. You'll like it a lot more.
I would say just mute it and kind of do like riff tracks.
As he tries to act?
No, here's what you do. You mute Taylor Kitsch, and then you play the audio from John Carter, and you get a really interesting Season 2. Because suddenly he's talking about aliens, and you're just like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, sure. You're like, oh, this is where all the weird mysticism came from. Cool. Yes, do that.
Talking about Mars and shit.
Do that. Tell us how it works out.
All right, that's it for Geek History Lesson. I'm Jason Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson. And
Ashley.
Professor Donut.
Close the podcast out.
Class is dismissed.
Just remember, in the winter, far beneath the bitter snow, lies the sea that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose.
I see you, Ashley. I see you. Run. Fuck, what was I gonna say? What was the joke?
He's like, I see you.
I was gonna see you at the. I was gonna say, no. I was gonna see you at the end of the podcast.
Oh.
That is, yeah. I see you closing out,
Okay.
telling everybody what your Twitter is. Tell me, okay. All right, here we go. Let's do that again.